Cumberland, once known as the Queen City, was a center for industrial and economic development for well over 100 years. Many prominent men, led by ambition and exploitation of a ready-to-work labor force, built stately homes, lavish retreats, and luxurious hotels, the likes many of which had never seen before. The Algonquin and Fort Cumberland Hotel are well-known, highly photographed, and documented. However, over a century ago, a similar, albeit not nearly as elaborate hotel operated high atop Wills Mountain. 126 years ago, in 1899, a magnificent structure known as the Wills Mountain Inn was constructed under the supervision of John McLaughlin and based on modified designs by architect Herman Schneider for J.H. Holtshoe, a local businessman, and opened on July 20th of that year by the Cumberland Lodge of the BPO Elks. The main building of Wills Mountain Inn, a lavish, beautifully built mountaintop retreat, was 3 stories high with a stone and frame addition that boasted 40 rooms, a large reception room, ladies' parlor, gentlemen's smoking room, among other amenities. The building was equipped with a vapor steam heat system, and the property held several 60,000-gallon reservoirs that furnished spring water for the inn. A short walk from the inn's front steps was the legendary Lover's Leap, which overlooks the Narrows, a 1,000-foot deep natural gorge formed by Wills Creek over the span of 137 million years, in which it carved a mountain in two. Perched high atop the mountain, the inn afforded guests a picturesque view of meandering and often unpredictable Wills Creek, U.S. Route 40, and several railroads amongst the unparalleled beauty of the Alleghany Mountains. Dances and many social functions were held at the inn over the years, and music was, for the most part, furnished by local bands. 2 musicians who performed at the inn later became locally prominent. Herman Miller became a local historian, and Caspar R. Taylor Sr. later prospered as a local tavern owner. On December 10, 1902, the Wills Mountain Sanitarium Company took over operations of the inn and converted it for the care of convalescents and invalids. Dr. Henry D. Fry of Washington, D.C. served as president, while Dr. James T. Johnson of Cumberland served as one of its incorporators. The sanitarium housed not only patients, but relatives and friends of patients as well. The wide porches and sprawling grounds enabled the use of wheelchairs for transportation to ideal places for viewing the artistic scenery that, as one doctor put it, only Mother Nature could paint. Horse-drawn carriages from the sanitarium ushered patients, family, and friends from Cumberland to the facility. Rates ranged from $25 to $40 weekly, with prices being graded by location of the rooms. These rates included the services of the resident physician, nurses, medicines, and meals, all of which were served in the room when required. On January 7, 1909, the sanitarium's purpose once again changed, this time serving as an institution for the treatment of alcohol and drug addictions. During the height of an active forest fire brought on by a summer drought, the sanitarium burned to the ground during the late afternoon of Tuesday, August 5, 1930, in spectacular fashion. A.F. Uplinger, a Cumberland resident, was helping to fight the blaze, which had been raging for more than 2 days and had crept to within 2,000 feet of the inn. Uplinger had walked to the inn hoping to secure supplies for him and the men battling the blaze when he saw flames inside the building. 4 adults and 4 children were inside at the time and were immediately told to leave the premises. They were driven down the steep and winding road to Piedmont Avenue and, in the rush, left most of their personal possessions behind. News spread quickly about the fire as most of the city could glance up and see the fire raging. Crowds of residents gathered in the streets below to watch the inferno, and Columbia Avenue provided one of the best sites for viewing the spectacle. Uplinger later told authorities, that the building was quickly consumed, with the entire structure having been ablaze within 20 minutes after he made his discovery. Stories concerning the cause of the building burning to the ground were conflicting, as J.T. Shrewbridge, a forest warden, maintained that the blaze didn't get close enough to the resort to cause it to catch fire. Others reported flying embers that landed on the inn's rooftop had caused it to ignite. In addition to the inn, a farm cottage belonging to Dr. Johnson, as well as the barn and outbuildings of the hostelry, were destroyed. A few years after the inn had burned, efforts were made to bring another business venture to the mountain, and after World War II, a new building was constructed by William Roeder, who was a local contractor. Set at a lower level than where the inn had stood, this new building was of concrete block construction and designed to be a first-class restaurant and nightclub. Named Taberna Monteum, or Tavern on the Mountain, it provided an outside dining area with a magnificent view of the city, especially at night when Cumberland put on its best performance. In 1948, residents in the city's north end were entertained by jukebox music that blared from loudspeakers outside of the tavern during the daylight hours. This novelty was fascinating for a while, but when only 2 songs came out of the loudspeakers, residents began to complain. One of the songs was Woody Woodpecker and the other was You Can't Be True, Dear, and when the residents protested about the songs being more of a nuisance than entertainment, the city legislation asked the proprietors to put a silencer on the amplifiers. Gambling was widespread in the mid-1940s, with soldiers returning to civilian life with money saved while in uniform. However, Taberna Monteum ceased to be profitable by the early 1950s, and the building was converted by Harry Stern, who opened an electronic business and operated it until the 1960s. The last business to call Wills Mountain home, Artmore Plastics Corporation, once owned by Art Morgan, converted and later occupied the building. Artmore, whose wide array of plastic products were sold all over the world, later held a museum on site dedicated to the history of Artmore and the property. In 2015 and 2018, 2 suspicious fires, later confirmed as arson, would eerily follow in history's footsteps to fully engulf the building and once again leave Wills Mountain with another scar. Today, the site is largely undeveloped and exists for the time being as Maryland's only inaccessible state park. Named Wills Mountain State Park, Maryland plans to develop the site, adding another world-class destination for history and nature lovers. The facility, a reminder of Cumberland's once industrious past, sits in a tangled and overgrown maze of local flora, home to only wildlife and the occasional vagrant. The ravages of Mother Nature, time, and human elements power the clock as the minutes become the past on the remaining buildings as Wills Mountain slowly reclaims what's hers.